This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self. Hey, everyone. By now, if you've been listening to this show or if you just found us, you know that I could geek out all day long on all things leadership, and that leadership has nothing to do with a title or a role, but really how we show up. And so I just loved this geek out session that I got to have with the incredible Lyndsay Dowd. She is Chief Heartbeat Officer. She's a keynote speaker, author, coach. She is a power skills maverick. She is just an incredible, incredible human being who has such a great story and a great way of what she calls normalizing what good leadership looks like. Like, most of us don't even know what we're looking for. And she talks about 3 key questions, and we revisit them a few times during the conversation, that every single one of us can ask ourselves to really help us get clear about what fulfills us, get clear about our purpose, use it to start to build our own personal brand. And how do we find work that nurtures that? How do we advocate for ourselves within an organization, within an industry? And just so many rich nuggets that we talk about. Like, you're going to probably want to go back and rewind. You're going to want to share this one. You're going to want to take a lot of good notes. I think she's just got a lot of richness. And some of it is really good tips that are going to take you to the next level. Some might be reconnecting you to things that we've just kind of gotten away from, but just lots of really good nuggets in this conversation to start to be intentional practices we can do now to show up as an effective leader in our life. And if you are a formal people leader, things that if you've gotten away from, it's time to get reconnected to so that you can have the impact that you want to have. Take a listen. All right, Lyndsay, I am so excited to just have a geek out session with you. Let's do it. Let's do it. So the reason I'm excited for this geek out session, obviously this show is called Show Up as a Leader, and we believe that everybody has an opportunity, and I would actually say a responsibility given our world, to show up as a leader in their life. And we also know that people who have that formal leadership responsibility in one way, shape, or form have an additional level of care and attention they have to have because of the influence they have over culture, over the employee experience. The list goes on and on. And so I know that you are really on a mission to transform leadership as we know it and normalize what good leadership actually looks like and feels like. I think, there's movies like Horrible Bosses and shows like The Office and stuff for a reason, which is like, it'd be sad if it wasn't so true. So I just want to dive in and talk to me about how you got to this place, and then let's talk about how you're looking at leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 25 years in corporate America, and I worked for some brilliant leaders, and I worked for some tragic leaders. And I think back when I was starting, there wasn't conversations around leading with heart. There wasn't really great examples, especially in the tech world where I came from. And I was always in sales. I was very often the only woman. I was often bombarded with sports references about the play on the 30-yard line from the game I definitely didn't watch. And that didn't inspire me. I didn't connect with that. And it wasn't until I started having some really great dynamic leaders that did it differently that I went, wait a minute. I feel completely different when I'm with this leader than I have ever felt before. I feel inspired, I feel encouraged, and I perform better. And I really started to pay attention to that. And I started to unknowingly collect a lot of those stories of, okay, I love the way she's doing this, or the way that he's speaking to the team right now is really good. I want to file that away. I didn't know at the time that I would need these things later, but I spent 23 years climbing the ranks at IBM, and I used to run big sales organizations for them. And at the end of 23 years, I left and I went to another company that sought me out. And they said, come run a sales team for us. And so I packed up my big blue legacy and my decorated career, and off I went. And in 6 months, they fired me. And I was gutted. I was devastated. I thought I was the only executive to ever be fired on earth. I thought no one would ever want to work with me again. There was so much shame associated with what had happened. And for a month, I couldn't really even talk about it. I was too upset, too afraid, too embarrassed. And then I asked myself 3 questions. What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? and I knew how to build modern leaders. I had done it many times, and I knew how to create irresistible culture that drives results. So that's what prompted me to start Heartbeat for Hire. And I started a podcast, and I wrote a couple of books, and I speak and I coach. And that's what I'm doing now. But all of those, that quarter century of experience of the good, the bad, and everything in between really helped form my methodology and what I believe leadership really should be.
I love all that. I don't love that you got fired or whatever, right? But I love that you're like taking the lemons and making lemonade. But I think, if anyone's been part of whether you're fired or part of a reduction in force, it sucks, right? And you do start to like question yourself and like, what the heck did I just do? And
Rosie,
I love that.
if anybody says it's just business, it's not personal, I don't know if we can swear on this show, but I'm going to say F them, because it is personal. It's very personal. And I used to, defend my team to the ends of the earth, so much so that I'd get a little fired up, sometimes a little emotional about it. And people would be like, why are you getting like that? And I'm like, because it's my blood, sweat, and tears. It's their blood, sweat, and tears. And I fight for them because they're good. I gave them the space to do the jobs they wanted to do, and they are crushing it. And if you are coming at us with some nonsense about whatever, which there's a lot of nonsense in corporate America, I had to be ready, and I had to protect them from all of that. And I think leaders make there's one big mistake that I see in early leaders is that they mistake their title for power. And that is really common to new leaders, especially if you've not had a good leader. So as you said, I'm trying to transform leadership as we know it. And I use my books, the speaking, the podcast, all opportunities like this, being on your show, to really illustrate what that's supposed to look and feel like. Because if you've never had it, how do you know?
Right. There's so many different stats out there, but I remember like a couple of years ago, and I haven't looked at the latest data, but there was a stat that like the average person who is put into a formal leadership role does not receive any formal training on how to actually lead for like 10 years. So what they've done is by osmosis of learning of what do you like, what don't you like? And so you're making it up as you go along. But it is, I think we all know this, but it's like whatever industry you want. Take, you're a good lawyer, you're a good salesperson, you're a good truck driver, you're a good doctor, you're a good whatever that individual expertise role is. And yeah, now that you're good at it, we're going to put you in a leadership role. And then we wonder why it doesn't work so well, because it's a fundamentally different mindset. It's a fundamentally different skill set. And so many people struggle because, they're coming in and they don't know what they don't know. And it's a nightmare. So we're going to jam this. I want to go back to those 3 questions because I think so. Everyone get a pen and paper if you're listening, share this, because I think those 3 questions, you went through them really quickly, but they're really, really impactful. So say them slower, like those 3 questions that you asked yourself, because I think this is going to be something we're going to dig into.
Well, and to your point, this is how I define my why. So what am I really good at? Write that down, ask yourself, and then stream of consciousness. What are you really good at? What do I love to do? What lights you up? What gets you fired up? And if you're going to be talking to your friends over drinks and they see a different version of you because you're talking about something you love, what is that? What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And the last one is the big one. The last one is what makes it stick. And that's how can I help people the most? I have a friend, Frankie Russo, brilliant guy. And Frankie, he's been sober for a really big part of his life. And the reason he has stayed sober, and this is what he told me, he's like, the reason I stay sober is because I help other people. And he has so much invested in those other people, he would never fall backwards. He is so interested in their success. So when you think about how can I project that joy and that thing I'm so passionate about, and how can I help other people, it's going to help it stick.
I love those 3 questions, like those Venn diagram, intersecting, right? But what I love about that is I do think a lot of us fall into roles for various reasons, right? And there can be like, we need money to pay the bills, this or that. And then, it goes back to, do I view it as a job? Am I disheartened? Is this fulfilling? Is this a career? Is this a calling? All of those things. And I think what I love about those questions is anyone listening, whether you have that formal leadership role, because you're right, like does not make you a leader, but if you look at that, like, okay, how do you start to even take charge of your own career path? How do you start to take charge of, what you say no and what you say yes to? I mean, I just think that it allows us to move through our work life, at least, and our life in general, with more intentionality for sure. Because guess what? Like, you can help other people and serve other people and not be in a formal leadership role, right? And come alive. And yeah, and some people are like, I'm not good at feedback conversations. I'm not good at strategy. I'm not good at structure. Well, then maybe you don't want to be in a role that requires you to do that, even if it's more money and power,
And to that point, I'm not saying everybody needs to go be an entrepreneur. You don't. But let's make sure that the job that you're doing is aligned to your purpose, because you're going to do better work. You're going to enjoy your work so much more. You're going to receive more accolades, more recognition, because it lights you up. And I've been in marketing for the last 10 years, and I think I want to move into sales, or I freaking hate talking to people. I'd rather be in data analytics. Like, that's where I'd rather be. Like, whatever that is, spend some time figuring that out, because it's important that you're doing work that's meaningful for you, not for the rest of the world, but for you.
I 100% agree. And I love that you can ask those questions and get to it. And we also, on top of those questions, we use, depending on the group and depending on the person, depending on the team, but we'll use a combination of the YOS discovery from the Y Institute that gives you your why, how, what, and we'll also use the 6 types of working genius to really, again, it's all looking at what makes you tick, where do you find fulfillment. And we've had people go through I'll have people go through their job description and they start going, okay, which working geniuses are present? And you realize, no wonder why I'm miserable, because most of my job description is actually my working frustrations, right? Or you're looking at a team and you're like, oh, no wonder, because the work that this role is required. Like, I'm working with a team right now and we just did a whole big team workshop and did all this stuff. And they realize that a person who is in a role who requires, I mean, it's administrative, it's the follow-up, it's all of those things where you need someone with high level of detail and follow through and tenacity. That's their biggest frustration. And I'm like, no wonder why you're struggling and you're having these like repeat conversations. Like, maybe this person is a square peg in a round hole. And it doesn't mean they're not great and can't contribute. Is there another place on this team or within this organization that you can leverage this person's gifts and stop being so freaking frustrated because you're trying to make them be something that they're not wired that way? And then, anyway, so
But this is also a piece that leaders can really help on. And anytime I hear a leader that says, I don't have time for one-on-ones, I'm sorry, you were in the wrong job. You must make time for your people. And part of your job as a people manager is to advocate for them. Well, how can you advocate for them if you don't know who they are? You don't know what their goals are. You don't know what their dreams are. And those one-on-one conversations should be a little bit personal. They should be, tell me about your family. Tell me about your life. What do you love to do? What do you like to eat? Do you have any pets? What do you think you're really good at? What do you want to get better at? And what do you hate? And for Pete's sake, write it down. Put it in your phone. So when they call, you don't say, hey, how's Sam? You mean Sally? Like, you sound like a real jerk if you don't want to know those things. But when you take the time to get to know them and you understand what they need, what they want, you can better advocate and support them. And I will tell you, I had people on my team, and people would always comment on, they would say, Lynds, I can't believe you're recommending so-and-so leave the team. So, well, so-and-so came to me and said that they were ready to make a change. They wanted to go to another team, another department. And they've only been here for like 6 months, though. How could you do that? They're not ready. I go, well, listen, I only want people here that really want to be on the team. So if someone tells me they want to go, I want to support them. I want to get them where they want to go. I know you're not going to work for me forever. So I want you to be happy, because if you take my leadership with you, you'll have that as your litmus test of where you feel safe, what good leadership feels like. And maybe when you have the opportunity to leave, you'll pass that on. But what that did was, when people asked me how you could let them go, they're like, I feel privileged to be here. I feel like I'm in a good spot. This is a cool place. And we built environments that were crazy fun, crazy ambitious, and we crushed our numbers over and over again because they had space to do the jobs they were hired for.
I love so many things about that. And I'll circle back to the thing you just said. And I want to circle back to something you said earlier, because, oh my gosh, we need to have a conversation on that. But I think that, there can be a fear of, oh, we got to hold on to people, or this whole fear of, and I think, especially when you start to look at, everything we know about millennials and, like, I'm going to say the younger millennials and Gen Zs coming in, like, this is not Gen X, this is not baby boomer, this is not people that are going to plant themselves for 20 years, but they can be your biggest advocate and be people who refer amazing people to you and be out in the marketplace and go, that company rocks, and, I outgrew it, or I had a different opportunity, but they're going to be your brand ambassador. And so I think when we think about, oh, we got to hold on to these people, not necessarily, that's the wrong attitude. So I love that. But I want to circle back, like, this seems so elementary. And I literally have had this conversation 4 times this week with formal people leaders, asking them, how often do you have one-on-ones with your people? And I'm coaching a leader right now who's very, blue collar warehouse. I don't care that your employees are warehouse workers or truck drivers or whatever. How often are you meeting with them? Well, I go around and just check in. Hey, how's it going? And, I'm like, no. And I'm like, where are you having those developmental conversations to find out what's going well, what's not, how you're doing, what they need from you? And I'm like, so how do you fill out their annual performance review? Well, they either don't, or I'm like, does that make it harder when you now have to have those cringy accountability, growth, feedback conversations? What are you basing it off of? Because you're not meeting with them, right? And so it's like, when I've done with some of our clients, and we've done work with their frontline managers and all of them, but really, like, some of these frontline managers, I'm like, your number one responsibility is not to the tasks you have to get done. Even if you're a working manager, your number one responsibility is to your team. And if you're not meeting with them, you don't know how to support them, you're missing the work of leadership. Like, it's that mindset shift. I think Simon Sinek has a great quote, and it's a long one, but it's the essence of it is that, it's a fundamental mindset shift from I'm the one responsible for doing the work to now I'm the one responsible for the people who are responsible for the work or the result. And that is a hard shift for some people when they're like, what value do I bring? Like, I only know value because I produce and sell and make numbers or whatever it is. How do I know if I'm adding value? I've heard people say, I don't want to just be an overhead expense. I'm like, oh, okay, we got to find another way of how do you add value as a leader? So I want your thoughts on that, and let's talk about it, because
I have a question that I would love for people to start to implement. And it's a humbling question, but it's very simple. And the question you need to ask all of your direct reports is, how can I be the best leader for you? They might not have an answer right away. They might be caught off guard. And I promise you, everyone's going to have different answers, because it's based on age, tenure, it's based on goals, it's based on so many different things, and everyone has their own unique experience. But when I asked this, I had reps say, stay the hell out of my way, be an escalation point, that's all I need. I had some reps that are like, I don't think I understand my job. Can we spend a little time talking about, like, what I can say, what I can't say? Some people were like, I think I've got it, but can I do some role play with you? Or can I get a mentor? When you have that information, you are so much more empowered as a leader. And this is a really wonderful thing to implement at the top, because when all of your leaders are asking this, all of a sudden, when senior leadership is having conversations around talent and, roles we need to fill, we already know there are people that are interested in other things. There are people that they want to grow. They are management potential, and we've had conversations about it. If you're not having those conversations, you have no idea what your talent is on your bench. And that's a mistake. That's just sad. So you're wasting everybody's time. You're managing the mundane tasks you have to do. But if you are a true leader and you love where you are, hopefully you do, you want to build that culture into something really special. And that's what's going to invite everybody to perform and inspire them.
100%. And I would even add on to that, but not even just that you realize, like, hey, there's people who have interest in learning other parts of the business or moving into formal leadership as you think about succession planning. But here's the other thing is, we have a client who they were talking about, like, well, we see all this potential in people, but they don't necessarily want, or like they're not, taking the bait or whatever. And I'm like, have you had a conversation with them of, is that what they want for themselves? Because they might see your leaders, that are never get to unplug or always on, whatever. And they're like, I don't want that for myself. So just because you see potential or they're high performance doesn't mean they want to move into formal leadership. And are there other places that like they can add value? And it's just so funny how we think about, no, like the only trajectory is up in management. And then they see people who they really want to be a leader. And most people are like, man, no thanks, I'm good. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not having that conversation on that side too, you're going to force people in. Sure, they'd like more money or sure, they're whatever. And then they're either going to be miserable or they're going to be ineffective or, who knows. So
I love that you said that because I have a little story. I had a rep. She was phenomenal. She was getting like $1 million commission checks. Like, I'm not even kidding. She was amazing. And someone told her that her resume looked stale and that she had been doing the same thing for too long. And I looked at her and I'm like, I'm sorry, is that person getting $1 million commission checks? Because you're exactly where you need to be. And oh, by the way, she should never have been a people leader. And the company wanted to promote her because they wanted to expand her knowledge into other people. She hates people. She's really good at what she's doing. She should stay exactly where she is. And that's why asking that question, have you ever thought of going into leadership? Or what do you like about leadership? Or, why do you want to go into leadership? Because the why question is rarely asked. And if somebody says, well, isn't that like what I'm supposed to do with my career? I'm like supposed to be climbing a ladder. Wrong answer. You're not the right fit. It's about the people. It's about creating culture. It's about helping people grow. That is true leadership. And most people mistake it for power.
I love all that. And so let's talk about that because, you've been alluding to the questions and stuff we can ask. But when we think about, because it really is about people. And so if you're not a people person, you shouldn't be leading other people, right? You can lead processes and projects and other things. But I feel like we need to say this for the listeners. This is not about whether someone is outgoing or extroverted or more introverted. It has nothing to do. Like Susan Cain has amazing work on, introverted leaders. This is about fundamentally how you hold space for other people and how your mindset and caring for them. And like you said, we always say being a steward of the culture and being a steward of the purpose and the values being a lived experience. And that's your number one role as a leader. And how do you do that? And how do you build accountable people rather than the power holding people accountable? Like that's a different skill set and that's a whole different world to be in. And it's not for everybody. So let's talk about when you say you want to normalize what good leadership looks and feels like for people who are listening, whether they're a formal leader or not. What are some of those things that we maybe intuitively know, but we've kind of forgotten about, or things that we should be paying attention to or reconnect to?
I'll tell you a little story. I was not a formal leader, but I was a client exec on a team and I had 55 reps that were calling on my account. And so I was the quarterback. And those reps had choices. They could go work on any other account, but I wanted them to work on mine. So though I wasn't their direct boss and I wasn't in charge of their salary, I was the person driving the strategy for the whole team. And I had to create an environment that was safe and that was really freaking fun and very lucrative for them. Now, there were other people in that role who were total gatekeepers, and they were like, you'll have to come through me if you want to talk to any of the top brass. Well, I had a $150 million quota, Rosie. I needed help. There was no way I could do it all by myself. And all I asked from them was, tell me what you're selling, explain it to me in a really simple way so I understand it. Because when I'm talking to the top brass at our client, I can advocate for you. I can tell them this is where we're having conversations. Is there anyone else that needs to be in on this? Because they know what's going on across their business more than we do. And people loved that. And we built a lot of trust. We built a lot of psychological safety. We created this amazing environment for everybody to thrive. And oh, by the way, we closed the biggest deal our client and us had ever seen. It was over $23 million. We crushed our numbers. It was amazing. But like I said, they all had choices. Now, when you're a people leader, people don't have as many choices because they're reporting to you and you have to create this space that they want to work in, but you also want to provide autonomy. And there's this ridiculous conversation going on, mostly from male leaders, I see, that you must come into the office in order for us to be productive. And I just don't believe that. And to me, offering flexibility is something that matters to people. And I could care less if you wake up at 5 a.m. and that's when you do your best work and you do all your admin and you do your sales calls in the first part of the day and you are done at 2. I don't care. I don't care if you want to work night. It doesn't matter. If you are getting your work done and you are handling your clients in the best way and you're not, doing terrible things with our company dollars, that's great. It's fine. Everybody has a different style, and recognizing that that is what they need, you support that. You have to create this space where there's trust and psychological safety. And when you do that, all kinds of magic happens. And I created this space for my teams. I gave them enormous opportunities. I talk about power skills a lot, and power skills are not just, soft skills. We don't call them that. They're way too important for that. These are modern leadership tenets. And one of my favorite ones is delegation. And people think delegation is just getting stuff off your plate, but delegation is an opportunity for someone to shine. And so when you already had those conversations about what are you really good at? Where do you want to grow? What do you want to do more of? They're going to tell you, you know what? I really love analytics. You do? Because I have an analytics project coming up and I would love you to run point on it. If anything goes wrong, I take the blame, but I would love to give you an opportunity to shine. I did that all the time. And my team saw everybody stepping up to do other things, and they all had their moment. And that is really impactful. It's an easy thing to do as a leader, but you have to have some faith that they're going to make mistakes, and you have to be there to support them, and you have to take ownership of those mistakes. It's not theirs. You gave them an opportunity, so you got to have their back. But those moments are so important from the outside and for the person in them. That's just a few ideas. But yeah, anybody can be a leader.
100%. Well, and I think to go along with that, it is, all right, I'm going to give you these opportunities and I'm looking out for this, et cetera. And it's also being mindful of what level of check-in, right? What level of guidance? Because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to give you this opportunity. And then I'm hands off, go sink or swim. And the person is like, right, they're being way under supervised and they don't know what they don't know. And they're right. It's not a good opportunity. And so I think that, yeah, I mean, and we talk about this a lot when you're elevating your leader bench strength and you're elevating your teams, is looking what are those opportunities? Oh, this person, if they're going to grow into whatever might be next, they need to, get some P&L responsibilities. Can you start to include them in some budget meetings or some, financial review meetings that you get? Or this person, or this person, the next step for them, and they do want to go into formal leadership, but it's kind of a big leap. Could we, have them manage an intern, or could we have them, mentor somebody, or, kind of bridge the gap of test, get their feet wet, so to speak. And I think, when you look at development, so much of it is supposed to be those real-time on-the-job opportunities and experiences that people are getting, because that's how we learn best. And certainly there's developmental programs and coaching, and that's a part of development, which is what we do. But a lot of our conversations with our clients on top of that is, okay, so we can work on this part of them and their mindset and their power skills. I call them essential skills or power skills as well. But what are the opportunities that you're going to give them to test these out, to implement these, to grow? They need to learn about that part of the business. What opportunities are there that you could include them in? And again, if we're not thinking about that, it's such a missed opportunity. And the other thing I love about doing that, or what you said, is where I come back to is even on our small team, it's like business continuity planning. Because if you only have one person on your team or in your organization who knows how to do fill in the blank XYZ, you're hugely vulnerable. And sometimes people hold on to that because then they feel like they have power. Well, I'm indispensable because they'd be screwed without me. But, we realize in our team, like if someone was out on vacation or out on leave or whatnot, well, we need some backup because we need more than one person who knows what the heck is going on. And you can multiply that by a gajillion the bigger the organization gets. And so I think, I just think it's so important to be always looking at those opportunities. And I think we get so heads down focused on meeting the numbers, or so heads down focused on the task at hand, or just checking off our list, that we fail to look up and see the people.
Well, and you're right. And I see this a lot with executive teams, when I ask them, what is your mission? What are your values as a company? And have you veered away from that because of all the pressures of the board, of, your goals, your quarterly goals, your annual goals, whatever. And it's really interesting to watch them kind of go, yeah, maybe a little bit. We've kind of cleaved from our initial mission, and that's okay. And I don't want leaders to feel shame about that. I want them to own it. And, there's nothing more refreshing than when you have a leader saying, hey guys, we got it wrong on this, and we're going to do better, but you're going to see some changes. You're going to see some changes in language. You're going to see a different approach from some of our leaders. And I want you to just stay open because we want this to be the best place possible to work. When employees hear those words, that's like, I'm listening. Let's see what happens. I'm a little more open than I was, because everyone can get very jaded very quickly. Trust can be fractured like that. So to rebuild that trust and to keep that trust, trust is your currency. And when you shatter it, you won't get anything from your people. You'll get the bare minimum. And if you're okay with that, keep on doing what you're doing. If you want greatness, you need to have that trust.
100%. Well, and, it's interesting. I love how you put that because, in the Dare to Lead work that we do, we always talk about, trust and vulnerability are like a dance. They go hand in hand. Like when I'm willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what? We got off course a little bit. And here's how we're going to get back in, or I'm owning like, hey, that didn't go so well, or whatever it is. We always talk about whether we're doing a culture survey or anything else with a client, it's like if you've had a bad history of fill in the blank, not communicating to people or not building accountability or, over surveying people or whatever it is, and you're trying to launch some kind of new initiative or strategy or any kind of change. Like we always say, so many organizations, they care for the systems elements and the pieces and parts and operational aspects of change, and they fail to care for the messy human aspects of change. Here we go. If you've done this stuff, but you didn't include the people who are going to be impacted by this in any part of this process, they're going to show up as resistors and saboteurs. If you aren't acknowledging, hey, we've been not great at this, or if you don't eat crow and acknowledge and take accountability, that's going to be that elephant in the room that people are going to sit there and it's going to be like the peanuts, wah, 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 wah. Right? I think they're going to be like, whatever, it's lip service. And it doesn't work. And so I love the way you're talking about it because we're humans. We screw up. We're going to screw up. And if
and it's okay. It's okay. I think leaders feel like they have to be perfect. And there is nothing more refreshing than someone saying, hey, I slipped on the ice outside. I totally fell on my butt. Has anyone ever done that? Oh gosh, all of a sudden we have some empathy for our leader. They're not up on a pedestal. We're not intimidated by them. I had an epic parenting fail, whatever it is, be human. And guys, there's no such thing as separate work from life anymore. We are 360-degree humans. We have lives outside of work, and we should allow for those lives to exist because pretending they don't exist is not sustainable. It is not realistic, and you want to support the whole person. When you take the time to ask, what's going on in your life? How are you? When was the last time you went to the doctor? How many leaders are asking that? It shows a different level of care, a different level of, I see you, I want to support you fully. It's important. That's what modern leadership is.
100%. Well, and I even think about, we hear so much about well-being and mental and emotional well-being, and the list goes on. And your first line to that is your direct leader. Your team matters too, but I always say to my team, look, I need you to be as whole as possible for yourself, for your family, whatever. So what do you need to care for? And let's have those conversations and let's talk about, what it's going to look like for you to be as whole as possible, because my role as your leader is to help remove obstacles or at least listen to you or whatever it might be. I think that's so important. And so this kind of is a good segue into one other conversation that we need to have. When you think about showing up as an, authentic, vulnerable leader, people do want to connect with you on a human level. I have some executives that I'm working with at a client right now, and one of them is starting to have insights about, I don't have to show up and be on and perform. When I show up and I'm actually screw things up or a little bit just more relaxed, people lean in and they receive it more. I'm like, yeah, because they're connecting with your humanness, not your, I have this power position. And so I think that gets into, are we having the impact we want to have? Are we showing up as the version of ourselves that we want to have. And so when we think about normalizing what good leadership looks like, we also have to be very cognizant of, we all can show up as a leader. What is that leadership brand, if you will, that we are projecting and that we're putting out into the world? And is it the brand that we want to have, or is it a brand that needs some overhaul? And so talk about how branding comes into this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, let's even take a step back and say, hey, you need a brand. I mean, because I've seen this happen where, and I felt this way being corporate, when you are in corporate, you think your brand is your reputation in that job. And especially if you've been at any company for, 5 years, you are pretty sure that that's your brand. That's not your brand. Your brand is your why. Your brand is, if somebody were to ask you, what drives you, what lights you up, what inspires you, that's your brand. And that's a hard thing for people to get their heads around. They're not familiar with doing that. Most people in corporate. When you're an entrepreneur, you have no choice. You have to do that because you need people to understand who you are and why they should call you. If you're a big recognizable name, why do I need a brand? Well, you need a brand because there's no such thing as job security. There's only career security. You got to build that for yourself. So when you think about the things, back to the 3 questions of what are the things that are important to you? What are the things that you're really good at? Start to write, start to do stream of consciousness around, what are the words that people think of when they think of me? And maybe ask a few people. So if you think of me, what are some words that come to mind? You might be surprised by what they say because you might not think that about yourself, but they might have something to say that could be really compelling and interesting. I love doing these stream of consciousness exercises with people because when you sit down and they write what they think and then you tell them what you think and you say, go ask some friends or some colleagues, and they come back with a whole bunch of new words, it's very empowering. But taking that and building something from it and leveraging it on LinkedIn. We talk about LinkedIn is no longer just this house for a resume. It is no longer a place that you're going to just go when you need a job. It's a platform for expertise. And you need a voice. You need to stand for something. So what is it that you stand for? And that old school thought process of, I actually had a client say this to me. I just did a keynote for them. And I said, I do LinkedIn workshops. Happy to do this with your executives and kind of help them build out their profiles. So anything that they share is going to look better. She goes, oh, no. I don't want that. I don't want them to go look for a job. And we went, oh, honey, that's not what it is anymore. No. So for anybody that isn't deep in LinkedIn, please come connect with me. I'll show you what I'm doing. But it is such an opportunity for you to shine and to let people know who you are. And hey, if you're a leader and somebody new comes to your team, go ask the whole team to welcome them publicly on LinkedIn. That is such a game changer for that person. They will feel so connected, so welcomed. I love to tell my C-suites to do this. And when they do that, they're like, oh, I should? Yes, you should. It's so small. It takes 10 seconds. But to the person receiving it, my CEO just gave me a shout out on LinkedIn. How cool is that? I don't care whether you're entry level or you're an executive. That feels good. And oh, by the way, if you are a C-suite leader, you get 561% more reach just because the nature of your title. That's huge. It's huge.
Well, and I also people who still resisted or whatever, or, and it is a spot to be clear of who you are. And I think that, way before I started Salveo Partners, I was at a consulting firm. And at the time, I wasn't very big on LinkedIn yet. I mean, this is a while ago. But I had started my drrosieward.com website, and it was mainly for thought leadership, to have blogs and promote speaking gigs. And they got all up in a tizzy. And I remember they said, well, the concern is that you're building your brand outside of here and you don't mention that you work here. I go, well, someone could go to my LinkedIn profile. I don't, because as soon as I mention it, you can censor it. But I'm like, there is nothing on this website that is a threat to you. If anything, it helps you, because it actually, the stuff I'm putting out there elevates your brand, because you guys can't get your act together to get a blog. And I remember it was this whole rub, and I was like, well, and I remember when they finally admitted, well, yeah, you're building your brand outside of us. And I said, well, I am my own brand, and this only helps you. And as soon as you view that as a threat, let me be really clear. And I was pointing to my head, you don't own this. And as soon as you try to own this, I'm gone.
Yeah, that's a very short-sighted way for them to view it. And my friend Steve Cadigan, he was the first CHRO for LinkedIn. He talked about when they were building out LinkedIn at the beginning, when they were really starting to grow. He talked about how they were competing with Google. They were competing with all of these monster companies who were offering huge sign-on bonuses. They could not compete with it. And so what they came to realize was these people probably won't work at LinkedIn forever, but we want them to have the most incredible culture, the most impactful experience while they're here. So we want to support them for as long as we have them and for afterwards. When you kind of come to it from that perspective of, we don't own you, but we want you here. We're so happy we have you and we celebrate you. Now do what you do best and shine because you make us look good. That's modern.
I would say when you have a bunch of people who shine, it only makes you look better. Like, look, we have all these amazing employees doing amazing things. Like who wouldn't want to partner with us, work for us, do business with us? Yeah, totally get it. So love all that. Okay, so speaking of, our humanness, right, in our brand and in the spirit of you normalizing what good leadership looks like, one of the things that I'm kind of obsessed with besides leadership and culture is normalizing the messiness of being human, because we do get in our own way, right? When we're trying to create our brand or we're trying to show up as a leader, we all create this narrative that, keeps us safe and small to some degree. Even if we've done a boatload of work on ourselves, it's part of the human experience. And so I love normalizing this for people who are listening that think, oh, Lyndsay's amazing. Yes, she is. But guess what? She's also a human being, right? Or when you're looking at that CEO or that whoever person who has a title, they're a person who happens to have that job. They're a person who has that title and they have the same messy human elements that you and I have, et cetera. So with that being said, Lyndsay, I would love to know, what is a self-limiting story that you still tell yourself sometimes? And when it shows up, how do you move beyond it so that you can still show up as a leader in your life and have the impact you want to have?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest self-limiting story I had was right after I got fired. I mean, I was talk about bottom of the barrel. I was on the floor saying, no one's ever going to work with me again. Like, I've been fired. I have a scarlet letter. How am I going to get out of this? How am I ever going to get hired again? Like, I thought it was that bad. And what I came to realize is every executive gets fired at some point in their life, but I didn't know that at the time. And it took a lot of courage and strength to say, no, I know this. This is my strength. And I'm going to take that pain and turn it into my power. And little did I know that horrible experience would fuel me so far and take me to where I am now. And I will tell you, this is not a straight line. This whole thing has been a squiggly line. Have I made bad investments? Yep. Have I hired the wrong people? Yep. But have I done some good things? I sure have. And have I done incredible things that I never thought I could do? 100%. So this might look all polished and groovy, but this came with its fair share of tears and scratching my head and what am I doing? And this might be so much easier to just go get a job, because it would be. But am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Not sure. So I think I am. I think I'm aligned with my purpose. And some days it's really hard and you're just going, oh my God, what am I doing? And other days you're like, I'm on top of the world. This feels so good. But you have to have that faith in yourself and you have to build your own board of advisors. I have a team of people who kick my ass and they also tell me when I'm in my head and they tell me that I'm capable of incredible things. And when I'm really struggling, I know I can reach out to them and just be like, am I okay? Am I going on the right path here? Let me check myself. And you need that. And I just want to say for anybody that is trying to find their purpose and trying to do something that maybe their parents are unfamiliar with or their best friends don't get, tune out those voices because my father was 41 years with IBM. My mother was a school teacher. They thought IBM equaled security. They thought that don't rock the boat, stay there, do what you're doing. And when I wanted to start out on my own, couldn't you just do a side hustle? when it would just be so, like smaller. You don't have to do, like, don't throw away a big corporate paycheck. And I was just like, I believe in myself. I'm going to invest in myself, something I've never done. And if I listened to them, I wouldn't have done it. But I found a group of people who are like, oh my gosh, you're so good at this. You've got this. Keep going. You inspire me. And that's something you have to build for yourself because this stuff's hard. It's really hard.
I love it. Well, and I would say even if again, you're in an organization, it's the same thing, right? Of can you do this? Can I stretch and do this other job or this other role, this other project? So I love all that. I love it. All right. Are you ready for quick questions?
Yes, go.
Okay, let's go. Fill in the blank. Living authentically is
Understanding your purpose and living it loudly.
live it loudly. Yes, I love it. When the world is presenting an opening, but you don't feel like showing up as a leader, what do you do?
Well, I want to make sure that the opening is right for me because sometimes there's a lot of openings that are shiny pennies, but they're not worth picking up. So you want to really make sure it's aligned with what you should be doing because I get offered a lot of stuff. I don't think I should be the star of a TV show, but I got offered that last week. So
You're like, hey, there we go. Nice. What is something people would be surprised to know about you?
I had a near fatal asthma attack in 2005, and there is no explanation for why I'm still here. So I spent a week in a coma. So I really do try and live my life big because you only get this one, at least as much as we know.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad that you came on the other side, but how scary. All right. What's your go-to song?
I'm a mother of twins, so I don't have a favorite, and I'm the same with music. But I'll say right now, I'm super into Chapel Roan. And if you haven't discovered Chapel Roan, turn it on loud in the car, windows down, just live. It's so good.
Nice. All right. What's something you can't live without?
Oh, she's not in here. I have my little 8-pound wiener dog named Poppy Long Sausage. I mean, I should say my children, my husband. Yeah, those are things I can't live without, but I'll stick with Poppy Long Sausage for now.
Oh my God, I love that name. That's fantastic. What is something in your ordinary daily life that makes your heart happy?
I love seeing people win. I love seeing my clients win. I love seeing my friends win. I get immense joy when I see them crushing their lives. I just think I have a really big heart, and I have room for a lot of people, and it's something really special when you get to see your friends doing really well.
I would agree. That makes me happy too. So yeah. And what are you grateful for right now?
I'm grateful that I had the courage to forge this path because what I've amassed along the way is some experience I never knew I wanted, needed, or would have. People have entered my life that have enriched it to such a level that I never expected. And I've met some of my greatest friends at age 52, which I never, ever thought that I just didn't expect that to happen. So I'm grateful for the pain and for all of the goodness that's come on this journey because it's brought me here. And I'm really happy to be here with you.
Oh, it all shapes us, right? I love that. All right, one closing question, Lyndsay. If you could challenge leaders everywhere to practice this one behavior that would create more human workplaces and equip everyone to show up as a leader, what would that be?
I have a hashtag. It's heartbeats, not head count. And just remember, lead with heart. Be the leader you always wish you had.
I love that. Yeah, we always say we have a program that we do a couple times a year for publics. Most of our stuff is with clients, but it's called our Courageous Leadership Program. And we always say it's be the leader you were meant to be and wish you had. And so, yeah, and I love that heart count. Like when people talk about head count, I'm like, heart count. Yeah.
Heartbeats, not head count. Yeah, I also love to remind leaders that when you've been given the job as a manager, you have immediately become the topic of everyone's dinner conversation. So make sure they're having good conversations about you.
100%. Well, Lyndsay, this was so much fun. I loved having this geek out session with you. I love everything you're doing and your energy. So thank you for the conversation. Thank you for what you're doing. There's much, much gratitude.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rosie. This is a lot of fun.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.